thank you for being here. This practice is invitational, and so by that I mean that you know your body and your needs better than I do. So if something does not feel supportive for what you need tonight, I invite you to honor that and to try to tune into what your body actually needs. Yesterday was the passing of Bell Hooks, who is a Black feminist, activist, author, scholar, so much more. And so this practice tonight will be sort of guided by the themes from one of her books, all about love. So throughout the practice, I'll offer a few words taken from this book. We'll be working into the heart space and a lot of the front body, and we'll eventually be making our way into ustrasana or camel pose. If you have two pillows, you can have those nearby, as well as maybe a yoga block, which isn't necessary, but if you have a yoga block or a thick book or something that you know you like to practice with, you could have that nearby as well. We'll get started lying on our backs. So you can take both of the pillows and sort of set them up in one line. And then lining up our sacrum, or the lowest part of our spine, with the bottom of the pillow. You can lower yourself onto your back so that your entire upper body and head is supported by these pillows. You have a couple options here with the legs. You can either bring your legs into constructive rest pose. So that means taking your feet a little bit wider than hip distance apart, and then letting your knees fall together at the center. I especially encourage this option if you have a lot of back pain or low back pain. This can release some of the tension that you may feel there. The other option would be to bring your legs into Supta Baddha Konasana. So this would mean soles of the feet coming together and knees splaying open to either side. So this can be nice if you want a little more opening all across your body. So you can kind of play around with what option feels better in your body, and then letting the arms rest down by the sides, palms facing up. You can also explore here with taking your arms a little bit wider. But finding a position where you feel a gentle unraveling begin to happen all across your chest. And then taking a moment to notice your ceiling or the sky or wherever you are from this perspective, lying on the floor. Maybe notice a new detail. And when you're ready on your own time, I invite you to either close your eyes or soften your gaze. Begin to tune into your breath, noticing your inhales and your exhales. Maybe you can sense the temperature of the air as you breathe it in through your nose. Maybe you can feel your belly rise and fall with every breath. And as you continue to breathe here, letting your body soften, relax your forehead, release your jaw, release the tongue from the roof of your mouth. And then on your next inhale, see if you can deepen your breath a tiny bit more. Sipping in one more breath of air on your inhale. And exhaling even more. And as you continue to deepen your breath, I'll offer these words from All About Love. Self-love is the foundation of our loving practice. Without it, our other efforts to love fail. Giving ourselves love, we provide our inner being with the opportunity to have the unconditional love we may have always longed to receive from someone else. We can give ourselves the unconditional love that is the grounding for sustained acceptance and affirmation. One of the best guides to how to be self-loving is to give ourselves the love we are often dreaming about receiving from others. I'll read that last sentence again. One of the best guides to how to be self-loving is to give ourselves the love we are often dreaming about receiving from others. And so I think when we talk about opening our heart, a lot of the time we're talking about opening it outwards, and can we begin to offer the same depth of love inwards that we are offering outwards. So that's the invitation in this practice, to move through the next hour or so with love for yourself. And if that doesn't feel accessible to you tonight, I invite you to be curious about that. So, continuing, nice big inhales, nice big exhales. Sending your breath to places that feel tense or tight. And slowly using your hands to help close your knees if they're not already. Hugging your knees into your chest, maybe grasping the underside of your thighs. And using that as leverage, we'll make our way into a seated position. So you can set your pillows to the side. If you have tight hips, you might want to keep one pillow and you can go ahead and sit on that. Elevating your hips a little bit will relieve maybe some of the tension you might feel in your hips or your knees. But coming into a seated position that works for your body, something where your spine can be nice and tall. We'll move through some seated cat and cow, so hands resting on the knees. We'll inhale, lifting our heart forward. Maybe your gaze lifts slightly. And exhale, we'll round through the spine, gazing inwards. Inhale, pressing the heart forward. And exhale, rounding out through the spine. Continuing to move through this on your own breath. Inhales, lift your heart forwards, and as you exhale, curving through the spine. On your next inhale, we'll come back to a neutral spine. As we exhale, we'll begin circling out our whole torso, so leaning over to the right, coming through the center, and then to the left, and to the back. So making these circles, waking up the hips a little bit, and all the while keeping our sits bones planted on the ground. So seeing if you can keep both sides of the pelvis on the mat. And then we'll reverse that direction. So moving to the left and through the center, to the right and back. Continuing to breathe here. And then coming back through center. If you are sitting on a pillow, you can move that one to the side as well. We'll come onto all fours into a tabletop position. So hands are about shoulder distance apart, knees are hip distance apart, fingers are spread nice and wide on the mat. And the core is slightly turned on here to support a nice long spine. We'll keep moving through some cat and cows. So inhale as we drop the belly and lift the gaze. And exhale, really pressing through the palms to curve the spine. Inhale as your belly drops and your shoulder blades roll down your spine. And exhale to cat. Inhale as your belly drops. You can imagine looking towards the horizon. And exhale rounds you out. We'll be here for another 5 or so breaths. So if there's any other movement that would feel good in your body or loving towards yourself, you can go ahead and move however feels good. And that can look like anything. Maybe you circle out your neck. Maybe it would feel good to stretch out your wrists. But using your breath to help tune into what your body needs and how your body is wanting to move. And then coming back into neutral tabletop. From here, we'll tuck the toes and begin lifting the hips, coming into a downward facing dog. So hips are lifted. You can have a really nice bend in your knees here. The deeper you bend into the knees, the more room you will have in your spine. Our fingers are still spread nice and wide. You can think about sending some of the weight into the thumb and pointer finger to take some of the weight out of your wrists. And if at any point this becomes too much or not right for what you need, you can always come back into that tabletop. On your next inhale, we'll begin lifting onto the toes, shifting the gaze between the hands. We'll take lots of little steps up to the top of our mat. And once you get there, you can let yourself hang heavy in Uttanasana or forward fold. You can still have that nice bend in your knees. Letting your upper body drip off of your pelvis, letting gravity help bring you towards the direction of the ground. On our next inhale, we'll bend into the knees enough so that your hands can plant onto the ground. And we'll step that left foot back. You can drop the back knee and untuck the back toes, coming into Anjalayasana or a low lunge. We'll check in with the foundation here. So taking a look at your front knee and seeing that it's in line with that front ankle. And if it's not, maybe you need to scoot that foot forward a little bit. If you have a yoga block or a book or anything and you want to use that underneath your hand to bring the ground a little bit closer to you, that can be really nice here. And from here, we'll begin inhaling that right arm up. So left hand is still planted. Right arm lifts towards the sky. Maybe you take your gaze with it. And on your next exhale, we'll begin cactusing into that arm. So bending at the elbow to help spiral your heart even more. We'll inhale that right arm up, and exhale, we'll bring it down. Then really gathering the strength of our legs, we'll inhale both arms up. And exhale, we'll interlace our fingers and bring them to the top of our thigh. So if this is a lot on that left knee, I invite you to bring a pillow underneath it or a folded up blanket or something for a little extra support. But fingers are interlaced on that right knee. We'll inhale, grow nice and tall through the spine. And exhale, sinking into our hips and using our hands as leverage to help lift our hearts. So if you're feeling any crunching in that low back, I invite you to engage a little bit more into that left glute and to back off just a little bit in that lunge. One more deep breath here. Inhale, really lifting through the heart. And exhale, we'll release that. If you have a yoga block or anything, you can set that to the side. We'll begin tucking onto the left toes, lifting the left knee. Walking your hands forward a step, we'll spring off that left foot, coming back into Uttanasana or forward fold at the top of our mat. Couple breaths here to reconnect, to come back into this moment, into your breath. And on your next inhale, bending into the knees enough so that you can plant your hands, we'll step that right foot back this time, dropping the right knee, untucking the right toes. Again, if you have a yoga block or a book or anything that you want to bring the ground a little bit closer to you, you can do that here. Seeing that your ankle is in line with your knee. And one nice long spine from the crown of our head out through our tail. And then keeping that right hand planted, we'll inhale the left arm up. And as we exhale, we'll cactus into that left hand, or left arm, excuse me, bending at the elbow to spiral the heart. Inhale, the left arm straightens out, and exhale as we plant it. Gathering the strength of our legs, energetically pulling them together. We'll inhale both arms up. And exhale as we interlace our fingers, placing them on the top of that left thigh. Inhale, grow nice and tall through the spine, slightly engaging into the right glute. As we exhale, sinking back down into our hips, lifting the heart. Maybe notice for yourself if this side feels any different than the other side. Inhaling both arms up and exhale, planting them down. We'll tuck onto the right toes, lifting that right knee, walking the hands forward a step, and coming back to the top of our mat, Uttanasana, forward fold. Another breath here to come back to your breath if you've lost it. And then bending into the knees enough so that you could plant your hands onto the mat. Stepping our legs back, coming back into a downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then shifting forward to a high plank. And either staying here or dropping onto the knees. Keeping the elbows hugged in by the sides, we'll lower all the way onto our stomachs. Bringing the right forearm in line with the top of our mat. You can go ahead and rest your forehead onto the top of that right hand. Bending the left leg so your ankle draws in the direction of your left glute. And then maybe you begin reaching towards that left foot. Maybe you're able to grab onto it. Otherwise, you're reaching in the direction of it. It's okay if it doesn't connect. If your hand and foot are connected, gently drawing that left foot closer to the left glute. Allowing some opening to happen in that left quadricep. Nice big inhales, nice big exhales. And then if your hand and foot are connected, gently letting that go. Keeping the left leg bent, we'll bring the left palm onto the mat, elbow facing up. Right arm can extend out to the right side. You can rest the right side of your face onto the mat. And from here, we'll begin pressing into that left palm to begin lifting the left side of our chest off the mat. Maybe this is enough. Maybe you are feeling some opening that's happening on the right side of the chest. If you would like to go deeper, you can begin lifting the left leg off of the ground, spiraling it so that the left foot plants on the right side of the mat, left knee points skyward. Continuing to open across the right side of the chest. Breathe wherever you land. And then slowly returning to your belly. Left leg can straighten out. Both palms lay one on top of the other. You can rest your forehead down and coming back into a neutral position. Taking a couple breaths here before we move to the other side. And then keeping the left arm in line with the top of the mat and your forehead resting on that left hand. Bending into the right leg, right heel drawing towards right glute. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you begin extending the right arm behind you, reaching in the direction of that right foot. Maybe right hand and right foot are able to connect, and maybe they don't. Wherever you are, you can breathe. If the right hand and right foot are connected, you can use that hand to gently draw your right heel in closer towards the right glute, allowing some opening to happen on the right thigh. If your hand and foot are connected, slowly releasing that, keeping the right leg bent, planting the right palm next to the right shoulder, elbow facing up. Left arm can extend straight out to the side, and the left side of the face can rest onto the mat. If you are feeling some opening happen in the left side of the chest, maybe you stay here. Or you can begin pressing into the right palm to begin lifting the right side of the chest off the ground. And then maybe you stay here, or maybe you begin lifting the right leg off of the ground, allowing the right foot to plant on the left side of the mat. Whatever variation you are in, you can breathe. Nice big inhales, nice big exhales. Returning to that idea of loving yourself through this practice. How in this moment can you give yourself a little more love? And slowly returning to your stomach. Palms crossed one on top of the other, resting your forehead down. Returning to a neutral position for a couple of breaths. And then planting the palms on the mat, hugging the elbows in, and pressing through the palms, making our way into seated on heels. If this is quite uncomfortable on the knees, you can take one of your pillows and place it between your calves and behind your thighs. Maybe you take a second here to close down your eyes. I invite you to bring your hands to your heart, or maybe you imagine bringing your hands to your heart. Bell Hooks writes, "As we love, fear necessarily leaves. Fear keeps us from trusting in love, and there is no fear in love." So letting those words resonate for a moment. There is no fear in love. So to be loving towards ourselves, we must release whatever fear you are feeling. Maybe that's fear around not being enough, or being too much, or not being worthy, or whatever your fear may be. Can it melt away? Can it melt away so that you can allow more love in your heart, more love for yourself? And if your eyes are closed, blinking them open. We'll be moving into ustrasana or camel. So lifting the hips off of the heels. Legs can be about hip distance apart. We'll tuck the toes here. So take a moment, make sure that your pinky toes are untucked, resting on the mat. And from here, we'll slightly tuck the pelvis to help protect our low back and to help lift our spine even taller. And then we'll take our hands and bring them to our low back. And from here, you can imagine sliding them into back pockets on pants. We'll begin hugging the elbows in. And so if you are already feeling some opening happening across the heart, this is a good place to stay. Otherwise, we'll inhale, grow nice and tall through the spine. As we exhale, we'll begin lifting our heart even more towards the sky as our hips press forward. We'll inhale, lift even more through the heart. And exhale, soften into that. And so you can continue inhaling, lifting through the heart, even if that's energetically lifting. But wherever you are, this is a heart opener, not a back cruncher. So if you're feeling any pain in your back, especially that low back area, I invite you to lift a little bit out of that posture. But the heart is lifting, the hips are sending themselves forward. Maybe you get to a place where you can release one hand onto your heel. Maybe you can release both hands onto your heels. You can gaze wherever is comfortable for you, whether that be gazing forward or maybe you gaze where the ceiling meets the wall. We'll take one more inhale here. And as we exhale, returning one hand to your back pocket, the other hand to your back pocket, slowly lifting ourselves out of it and returning to a seated on heels position. Either closing down the eyes or softening the gaze. Maybe bringing one or both hands back to the heart. Reconnect with the breath. If your eyes are closed, you can blink them open. You can swing your legs around, coming into a seated position, legs extending out in front. Again, if you would like to sit on a pillow here to elevate your hips slightly, you can do that. We'll be coming into a seated forward fold. So with your pillows, you can place them onto your thighs. This will be a bit more of a restorative version of a seated forward fold. So with your pillows on your thighs, we'll grow nice and tall through the spine. And as we exhale, we'll begin resting our bellies, resting our chest onto those pillows. You may need to take some adjustments with the pillows so that your face is comfortable. But seeing if you can find a way to let yourself be entirely supported here. We'll be here for several breaths, so if you need to go get another pillow or anything, you can go ahead and do that. Letting your hands hang heavy on the ground. Letting yourself really sink into this position. And slowly begin lifting yourself out of this position. We'll be making our way back onto our backs. And as we wind down here, you have the option to return to that same position that we started in, with the pillows stacked, elevating your heart, or you can move into a regular shavasana. So just lying flat on your back with your legs extended out in front of you. So you have your option here. If you want to get a blanket or anything, if you know that you get cold, you can cover yourself up. But slowly making your way back onto your back. Whether or not you have the pillows underneath you or whether you are flat on the ground, we'll hug our knees in here. Maybe giving a little rock from side to side, massaging out the low back. Rolling out the ankles. Taking any final little movements that you want or that would feel good in your body. When you feel ready on your own time, coming into a final resting position. So again, that could be shavasana, where you're lying flat on your back with your arms and your legs extended long in front of you. Or if you're resting on the pillows, you can knock your knees together in center, or you can connect the soles of your feet and let your knees hang open. Whatever position would feel supportive and loving towards yourself tonight. Letting yourself get as comfortable as you can. And closing down the eyes or softening the gaze if you have not already. Feeling into your inhales and feeling into your exhales. We did a lot of opening across the heart and across the front body. So taking a moment or two to notice if your body feels different than when it first began. Maybe you feel more expansive across the heart, or maybe you can sense your breath deeper in your belly. Maybe your body feels softer. Maybe it feels none of those things. Maybe you feel anxious or distracted. Whatever you're feeling, I invite you to notice it and to welcome it as valid. Releasing any expectations for how you think you should be feeling, and allowing whatever you're feeling to just be. We'll be here in this final resting position for several more minutes, so let yourself have this gift of rest. And I will bring my voice back to guide us out of it when it is time. So take rest. Slowly begin coming back to your breath. Coming back to your body by wiggling your fingers and your toes. Really taking your time here. Rolling onto one side and using loving, helpful hands to lift you back into a seated position. So any sort of position where you can have a nice tall spine. And I invite you here to keep your eyes closed or your gaze soft. And as we begin to close out this practice, we can begin to think about how we can carry these lessons off of the mat with us. And sometimes at the end of an asana practice, you might hear a yoga instructor say something along the lines of, "The light in me sees that same light in every one of you." And Bell Hooks writes that when we choose to love, we choose to move against fear, against alienation and separation. The choice to love is a choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. The choice to love is a choice to connect, to find ourselves in the other. And so may we continue to invite this perspective and this understanding into all aspects of our lives, that by having a strong foundation of self-love, we grow the capacity to love others. That in order to love, we must move beyond fear. That loving others, we are seeing ourselves in everyone. Continue to find your breath here, letting these words, this practice settle in your body. We will close this practice with one Om. So I invite you to join in or to receive it. Either way, we will take one cleansing breath together, inhaling through the nose, and exhale, let it all go. We'll inhale, fill up for Om. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your grace and understanding with the phone interruption earlier. Together we will bow our heads and say Namaste.